We are charting the higher octave with New York City indie pop artist Joe Geni. Joe, hi, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Well, glad to be here.
Yeah, so happy to have you. When I saw that you're working with producer and sound engineer Charlie Nieland, it's awesome, you know? That's awesome. Yeah. So Charlie has been in the show in the like a long time ago. I would say maybe like before the I don't know, before the pandemic maybe. Yeah, I think I gotta invite him back on the show to talk a little bit more about all the stuff he's been doing since. But
Yeah, he's always got like multiple different projects going on. He was in the band Her Vanished Grace forever, and then he had a different band where they were recording songs off of based off of books, and it was just he's had a bunch of different projects. There's always something going on. Whenever I go down there, he's like, "Oh, I'm doing this new thing." It's cool. He's great to work with.
oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean he's done like he's worked with Debbie Harry, Blondie, Scissor Sisters,
Yeah,
Rufus
yeah,
Wainwright,
no,
and some other people. And I think he also did what was that thing he was involved in? Let me see if I could find it really quickly here. Yeah, I think he did a score, right, for the feature film The Safety of Objects starring Glenn Close. So that's amazing.
yeah. No, a long and varied career, and he's a bit older than I am, and so he has all this experience from an era that I wasn't really there for. Like I grew up listening to a lot of new wave, and like Police and Talking Heads are
Uh-huh.
integral to me developing my sound. But he was there when all that stuff was happening, and so he has a lot of experience. Late '70s, sort of Peter Gabriel is really integral, and also we record on software now, Logic, but he was there doing this stuff back in the 8-track days. And
Mm.
that's, when I first started recording, because I do a lot of the sounds in my home studio, but I started doing, Music Shop for MIDI and Pro Tools, and now I use Cubase. And so computer digital audio were interfaces. That's all I know, but he knows the old school stuff, and so he's got a lot of the classic analog stuff in his studio, and that's just fascinating for me to just watch him do his thing. These sort of like little magic things
Yeah,
that you
yeah,
can
and
do
he
with
lives
that.
in New York, right?
Yeah.
Have you met him directly, right? I mean, no,
Yeah.
yeah.
He originally did produced a record by a band that I was in like 2011, and then I went
Oh,
away for several years, and I came
which
back, and
band
I
was
was like,
that?
yeah, it was called Oh Halo. It was this
Oh,
kind of
yeah,
like
yeah, okay.
dark, yeah.
Oh,
They were really
cool.
good. I was playing bass and sort of multi instrumentals for them and backup vocals, and so I was helping them do their last album. Then I went to graduate school in Italy, so that was the end of my time in that band. But that's how I met him originally, because he was producing some of those tracks that we were doing.
Mhm.
And so when I came back like 6 years later to the city, I was like, this is the person I want to work with, and I reached out immediately.
Oh, good. So when you in Italy, were you making music as well? Like making music up there while you're going to school?
No, it was weird. It was I started DJing parties actually. I somehow got
Oh,
into that scene. But I didn't bring any of my musical instruments there because I was only going to be there for a year. And uh there was a serendipitous moment. I was out in Italy and I started DJing clubs and I was doing all this stuff. And while I was there, a flood came in. Hurricane Sandy came in and flooded all of my possessions, which were in a storage space, and just
oh
wiped
my
them out
God.
completely.
God.
But the last thing, because like right at the end, I was like, should I bring my bass guitar to Italy or not? And at the last moment, I decided not to. So I threw my bass guitar on top of the pile, and my 7 foot tall storage space took 5 feet of water, which meant that the bass guitar survived. Everything else was destroyed, but the bass guitar survived. And I
Oh
was like, this
God.
is
That's
this is
heartbreaking.
destiny. So yeah, but like
That is
it
so
kind of gave
heartbreaking.
you a chance to. But yeah, so I wasn't making music out there. I came
Oh,
back and I was like, okay, I'm gonna start making music again. I have nothing except my bass guitar and my laptop, but I'm gonna start doing this. And so I sort of relearned how to make music again, and it was kind of like a fresh start. I got to start from nothing.
wow. So that's kind of like a transformation for you with all that
Yeah,
stuff going through, like a death and rebirth of your music.
Yeah,
Cap.
the stuff that came after is very different than the stuff that came before.
Oh, yeah. You had a awakening there. So
Yeah.
you were up there. You said you were DJing. Like, what kind of music?
It was mostly sort of, mixed format, club music, top 40, like this, the kind of thing that like, because yeah, University of Bologna is like it's like the oldest university in
Oh, it's
Europe. It's
beautiful. Wow.
like from, I think it was founded in like the 11th century. And so
Yeah. So the Gothic
beautiful,
cathedrals.
huge
Yeah.
campus, all
Mm.
these old, stone buildings. And so you have tens of thousands of college kids. So I played stuff that college kids want to hear.
Yeah.
But through that, I was able to kind of explore how different pieces and different genres kind of interlock. And so a lot of that stuff actually, like dance music, my stuff doesn't sound like dance music, but you can hear the kind of beats and rhythmic patterns in there from like, like dance hall or like club music. It's
Mm.
like there,
That's
even though
cool.
that's not the sound that I create. And that really helped me build that when I came back.
Yeah. So, I mean, were you DJing vinyl or Serato or another kind of
Uh,
platform?
yeah, no, it was through software. It's
Oh, yeah,
Tractor
yeah.
is what it's
Oh,
called.
okay.
It was
Actor.
it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
all based off of MP3s, which is funny. When I got back in, it was like the late 2010s, and nobody was using MP3s. But I was like, no, I need MP3s in order to DJ parties. But the thing was, is like I knew I was leaving, so I sold my iMac and I sold my, I put all my CDs in storage, and they were all destroyed. But and my records in storage, they were all destroyed. But so
Huh.
all I had was the MP3s that I could take with me. Me, my laptop, my MP3s, my little DJ console is very portable. And so everything else was destroyed. So I was operating off of digital completely. There's no way to bring a
Oh, that's so
vinyl
cool.
collection across continent. Yeah, so it was all MP3 based. I know it doesn't sound as good, but you crank it up loud enough and the bass still oops.
Well, if you get people to dance, that's what's important, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the fun part.
Yeah, wow, that's great. Do you still DJ?
I sort of like stopped. Like I still,
You focus on
I
your
have
music.
my
Mm.
equipment. I sort of like moved on from that. I want to focus on my own stuff. I want to focus on singing and playing
Yeah.
bass and creating my own music. And it's sort of like I've done it. I've done the parties. I still have my stuff. And every year or so, somebody gets married and they're like, "Can you DJ my wedding?" And I'm like, "All
Yeah,
right,
Yeah,
fine.
I
I
know
can pull
how
all
that
the
is.
stuff out of."
Well, speaking of voice, I know you sing. I know you have an incredible reach with your vocals. 3.5 octave range. I don't really know the difference of those numbers. Maybe you can explain that a little bit. So I know you can hear it in your music, you know.
Yeah. I can if you think about it, an octave is like, it's C to C,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so it's like two more of those and a half.
Mm.
And that didn't come naturally. My thing is that people can, it's like many things. Most people can sing and far better than they realize. Their voice is capable of far more than they're aware, but they don't put it to the test, and no one
Mm.
teaches them how to do it. So I was doing these, yeah, I was doing these shows in like, the late 2000s, and I would be on there on stage playing my band, and I would shoot my voice every single time, and I was, only very minimal range, and I was like, why is this happening? So I went and I signed up for voice lessons, and I walked in for my first voice lesson, and there was this opera singer. His name is Roland, incredibly charismatic, and he was like, the reason you're not able to sing on stage is because you're a tenor and you don't realize you're a tenor. And ever since, he's been teaching me and has taught
Wow.
me to sing higher and louder and across a greater range and with greater control and efficiency than I ever thought was even remotely possible. So I suppose it's true for a lot of other people too. But he was like, from immediately, he was like, you have incredible skill. You just have to unlock it. And so it's been, and when I stopped taking the lessons when I went off to Italy, and the thing about the male voice is that it takes a long time to mature. He was like, opera singers don't even go on stage, at the highest level until they're in their mid to late 30s. And so
Really?
the
Wow.
the voice deepens and broadens. And so I could sing in my 20s, but then I went off to Italy. And by the time I got back, I was in my 30s. My voice had changed. I didn't know how to use it. I'd forgotten how to sing. And I had to go back to him. And we started from scratch and built it back up, and now I can do things that I never thought was possible. So it's
Oh
really been a
yeah. Well, thank
rewarding
you for that.
partnership.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's so true, you know. Voice is so important. If you don't, if you have to know what your that gift with your voice, because a voice is a gift. And it's funny because if you notice what I said in the beginning of the show, we're charting the higher octave, right? That's the name of the show. And the reason I
Yeah.
came up with that, okay, is because it's based on astrology and music. Because a lot of
Mm,
that's my two passions in life is astrology and music. And when you talk about the higher octave in music, is what it is, what we talked about. Music is octave, right? And charts is music charts. And in astrology, there's a higher octave in astrology. Neptune is a higher octave of Venus, Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury, Pluto is a higher octave of Mars. So it's just a higher version of the planet. So just like,
mm.
yeah, so it worked out pretty good. It's just funny how we're talking about octaves and oh, okay, there's a singer. So that's great. And I know you're also you play instruments as well, right?
Yeah, I so singing is my top instrument, but I've been even before that I was working as sort of, mu home studio using MIDI, and I've always, for the most part, apart from being, Halo and a bunch of other bands that didn't go anywhere because it's New York and bands like wink in and out of existence on a weekly basis. I've mostly been a solo artist, and so I've had to learn how to do almost everything in studio. So the
Mm,
bass guitar is my primary other instrument. I create drums through MIDI, and through computer software manipulation of sounds. And then I have a keyboard. You can see my keyboard behind me, actually, if you're on video. And and then I have guitar, but guitar is not necessarily my strongest instrument, so I run it through a whole bunch of effects and
mm,
create sort of these soundscapes. And it really creates this ethereal, dreamlike. It's just the things you can do to create like a dense audio palette. And I have really good hearing, and so it becomes kind of a spiritual experience to like play these things back and be like, I created this sound. And it's just it sometimes when I'm done, like I listen to tracks, some of the tracks on my new album I created, a couple of years back, and I listened to them and I don't remember creating this. It just happened. It was just like a spiritual
yeah.
sound flowed through me onto tape, and it's there, and I don't even remember doing it. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's like a divine intervention. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very true about music. When people write music, it's just like, what happened? I don't know. I just had this inspiration all of a sudden to write this song or to create this words at that moment. So we all have that moment. So so this album, I know you just released your third album. It's called Cities Built Upon Cities, released
Yeah.
in October. And of course, that's produced by Charlie Nieland. And the other two you had were also produced by Charlie, right? I know you had two more.
Yeah.
Doggerland, which was in 2021, and your debut album called After Wandering Empire in 2019. So this third one, I know there's an inspiration behind it. It's like the city of New York, the city where you are. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, each of the albums is sort of it's difficult for me to write kind of like standard, love and lost songs directly. I have to write them through a theme, through a sort of atmosphere, through a mood. And so the first album, After Wandering Empire, was about me coming back to New York after traveling to different places, and the sort of mental health toll that it takes to constantly be in motion, and then like
Mm-hmm.
finally finding like this is where I want to be. Doggerland is about climate change, and about the sort of
Mm.
changing environments. It also was finished during the pandemic. Cities is also a pandemic record. I did most of it while on lockdown, and then finished it, in studio much later. So some of these songs I wrote as far back as 2020, but fundamentally what it's about is I live in Long Island City in New York, and it's a neighborhood of New York it was very warehouse industrial. Very few people lived here. And it got rezoned in the 90s because it's right next to Manhattan. It's right next to Midtown. There's a bunch of train lines that go through it. So it's a perfect place for people to live. And, but it just that's not how they'd zoned it. So all of a sudden they realized we should have people living here. So they rezoned it, and all of a sudden there was this explosion of residential buildings just going up left and right. The building that I'm living in is like, 50 something stories, and it didn't exist 2 years ago. So there's
Wow.
these high rises all over the place. And so it's just constant scaffolding and construction and new buildings going up left and right and concepts and people coming in from all over the world. And my friends are coming in, my friends are leaving. I work in international affairs. And so lots of times it's like, oh, I'm really, this is a really good friendship we're developing. Oh, you're moving to Lebanon. Dang. And so
You got
you have,
international friends.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so you have a lot of you have people changing, moving in, moving out, the landscape changing, sea levels rising, people building new buildings, and just this city in dramatic transformation, an entire new city being built on an old city. And I was inspired by this. And so a lot of the songs are about walking around this landscape, searching for love, searching for friendship, in a land
Mhm.
that is in constant transformation, in a city that's in constant transformation, and that's what the record's about.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that too. For Hawaii, we have the same situation going on with big high rises coming up and investors investing in them, that's not even from here. That's not from
Yeah,
Hawaii. I mean, just like in New York, I'm sure. I mean, that's a great place to probably buy 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 property, right? And invest in it and just rent it out or something like that. So I can truly understand that and feel it from your point of view. It used to be industrial. Do you miss that?
yeah.
Or do you like the way it has changed?
What's kind of cool is that there's still like a fair amount of that. Anytime what you'll see is you'll see a real, a super tall high rise of anywhere from 10 to 50 stories. And then on one side of it, there'll be windows and glass and brick and this very sort of modern style. But then there will be one wall that will be blank. It'll just be like concrete or brick. And below it will be like a warehouse that's like, 20 feet tall, and
Mhm.
you'll know instantly that warehouse is doomed because they put the blank wall up because there's going to be a building right next to it. And so someone
Oh,
is going to bulldoze that warehouse because it's not worth very much compared to the, hundreds of people you can get to pay a lot of money to rent in one of these new luxury high rises. And so watching them go down one by one is fascinating, but there's still old infrastructure, there's still old architecture, there's still, row houses scattered about and this sort of like strange landscape, and like that old stuff is still there if you know where to look, and some of the new architecture takes into account what it used to be like around here. And the way that they're repurposing, like the old gantries down by the harbor, they've turned that into a beautiful walkway and park. And
mm.
but the gantries are still there. And so this combination of like what's new and what's old interlocking is really fascinating to behold.
So is the property in that area, is it similar to Manhattan? Or is it a little bit a little bit less?
Depends. So many of the buildings here are new that actually a lot of people are paying more than are in the old buildings. But like if you have a new building in Manhattan, you're paying more than you are here because this is
Yeah.
Queens. Yeah. But if you're living in a new building here, you're paying more than a lot of the stuff in Manhattan that are kind of these old buildings. And so it's
Mm.
like here you can expect to have a dishwasher in your unit and like a building, either laundry in unit or laundry in your building. In Manhattan, these things are not guaranteed because some of these buildings are like hundreds of years,
Yeah, they're
like
old. Yeah.
they predate the washing machine, sometimes by decades or even centuries. And so it's like there's no room for a washing machine, there's no infrastructure for a washing machine. And so you have to like go across the street and like down the street, and people are paying like ridiculous property prices, and they don't even have a washing machine because it's just like the stuff's old here. But yeah, no, some of these new luxury buildings are like, normal humans cannot
No, over
afford
a
to.
million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Like, yeah. Well, New York, right? But it's a great place to live. And when that happens, you get all these people coming into the city, living there, right? Get a new residence and just whole different climate of just all kinds of people.
Yeah, so like the plus side, it's a fascinating neighborhood around here. People are coming in from all over. It's like there are languages being
Hmm.
spoken that are not English more often, sometimes than not, depending on the building. And so you get this incredible diversity of people's experiences, and like grocery stores that are specifically targeted towards like this community because there's so many people who have come in, and so you have all kinds of different, restaurants, and it's a really dynamic neighborhood. But it's also really expensive, so people are moving out, and like that's the thing about art, is that the artists, they're kind of like moving one neighborhood over at a time. Like if you go back to like the 60s and like Rothko, it's like the Bowery is where all the artists were, and it was kind of run down. And then it was the East Village, and then they crossed over into Williamsburg, and then Williamsburg became under, unaffordable. So now they're out in Bushwick, and like next it'll be somewhere else. And before you know it, they'll be at East New York, all the way on the other side of the city. But they keep like, there's still a great art scene here. It's just hard to find that in, the closer you get to the city center, because prices are so, rent is so, it's like Mike Bloomberg said, New York is a luxury item, and it shows. But the artists are still here. You just have to look for them.
Yeah, it's changed quite a bit, huh? A lot of people have
Definitely.
left. Yeah, it's not the same like it used to be. That's what they say. Like in any
Oh
place too. People just move around. They don't like one place, they move. It's too expensive, they move. Whatever it may be. I mean that's how it is with the club scene too. So I know it from the club perspective. Like you can see it. People that used to dance like 10 years ago are not here anymore. There is a new group of uh, you know younger generation, a different generation that still likes the music, but it's just that way. So this album, you have a great artwork. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I know there's let's see, there's an umbrella. I love the colors.
yeah, so it's the single arts. Like I designed those myself, and it's just Canva really, but capturing a sort of, the umbrella image is for a song called City Where the Sky Subsides, one of the singles, and that's a song about, basically having a date rained out, but it's more about the kind of like mood, looking out at the rain from, a glass window and that kind of thing. But
Mm.
and then City of Energy, it's power lines, and that's all about searching for love in a city where you're putting energy in it, your emotional energy, even the
Mm.
physical energy of your body, and hoping that will come back to you, but also the electricity and the energy that powers the city that you're in. And so each of those, I try to find images and art and framing that kind of captures the mood of the song. But then the actual album art, you'll notice, is a painting, and that was just a painting by. There's so many talented artists here, and that's a painting by a friend of mine who lives out in Jersey City, where a lot of artists live who can't afford to live in Manhattan because it's expensive. So you have like an art scene out in Jersey, and that's being pushed further and further out as well. But yeah, I have a friend who's just like an incredible painter, and this is one of the advantages of Instagram. Social media can be incredibly toxic, but I follow my friend on Instagram, and I was like, "Your painting is incredible. Can I use this on my album?" And
So
sure enough, that's
are
how
you
it is.
talking about cities built upon city? That's the one with there's a red is that the one? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Where it's very,
Like a it's shaped. Yeah, I love that. I love the colors. It really does it's different, and it speaks in volumes. Just, if you look at the album and you're
yeah.
telling me
It's
this, right? I mean, I can
Yeah,
see
it's
the
it's
perspective.
abstract, but like,
Yeah.
so it's not a painting of scaffolding, but if you look at it, it's kind of scaffolding, and it captures that sense of transformation. And also, I just love colors. I love modern art. A lot of times, I just like, if I'm feeling writer's block, I just go to the Natural History Museum, or sorry, the MoMA, the Modern Art Museum here, and I just walk through and I look at all the, the futurists and the post impressionists, and
Oh.
just the color and vibrancy, because they were also capturing a time of transformation, the Industrial Revolution. And I'm like, I'm inspired. I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna write something. And yeah, so that really captured that for me. Like I love color, I love energy, and as soon as I saw that image, I was like, that's it. I have to convince my friend to let me use this for cover art.
Oh man, you are inspiring, I have to say.
Thank
I,
you.
I love your music and the whole album. It has a lot of depth. It definitely
Thank
does.
you.
I mean, I can understand where you're coming from, and I'm looking at what you're telling me, and I'm thinking, wow, that's amazing. You look at this. This album was already released. Do you have something coming up? Are you planning your next one already? Some people do.
The first 2 years of the pandemic, I was on basically total lockdown. I worked remote the entire time, and for most of it, I couldn't even leave my little sort of like triangular neighborhood that's like a mile in each direction. And I wrote a lot of music because there wasn't very much else to do. So I have like 2.5 albums in the queue, and I'm trying to decide whether to release them one song at a time. Some of it's like old stuff that I scavenged from my 20s, my first go around in New York. A lot of it is new stuff. I have a whole other album that's kind of natural history themed that I wrote while I was here, and then I'm starting to write new stuff because I've learned how to sit. Like if you listen to my records, I'm really proud of all of them. But if you listen to what my voice is capable of doing on my first record versus my second record versus this record, my voice has transformed and my ability to communicate has transformed. So I need to write new stuff, but I also have stuff that I've already released. And so what order all of this is going to get released in, and whether it's in singles or whether it's in records, I have no idea. But there's a lot of stuff in the queue.
Oh
So,
yeah,
oh
yeah.
yes, stuff
Oh
is
yeah.
coming.
Are you thinking of doing this a different theme? Because I know you like to do themes, but
Yeah, so
have you?
I have a natural history themed collection of songs, and then my earlier stuff is kind of capturing what it's like to just get here, kind of utterly naive, excited in my 20s, fascinated by lights and sounds and um, you know technology and sort of new experiences, and so it captures some of that, the positive of it, the negative of it. So I've got an album kind of about my youth. And so that's stuff that I'm going to be releasing, perhaps one song at a time. And as far as the next generation of things, we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll find out and you come back on the show again.
I'd be honored.
Thank you so much. You're quite an inspiration. Yeah, I really love your how you think and just your whole concept of how you put this together because I think that's important. A lot of people, a lot of people write about love. I'm not saying love is not I mean, it's a good thing. You have love in this album as well too, right? Yeah, you
Yeah.
do.
I
Yeah.
mean,
City.
one of the songs is called City Where I Fall in Love.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
So,
very important. Although oddly, what wound up happening was a lot of the songs ended up being about friendship. The last one, City of Light, is a very close friend of mine who was in the neighborhood, and we just walked around the neighborhood because we had nothing else to do, and so it was sort of like our friendship getting us through this period. And City of Patterns is about friends who left the city and moved elsewhere, and how I'm going to remember them, even though I'm probably not going to see them very much again, in some cases ever again, and I'm going to lose touch with them, but they're still important to me. And so a lot of the songs, yeah, it's really about my friends, the people who really matter to me. I was single for most of the time I wrote this album. So the songs about love are sort of like, will I ever find love? The songs about friendship are like, I'm so glad I have these friends, these few friends who are really close to me.
yeah, I mean that's important. Friendship is so important. Sometimes more important than love because they'll always be there. But yeah, that's great. Yeah, thank you so much for telling us about and big shout out to Shameless Promotion PR. Yeah,
Yeah.
for
Yeah. It's very,
for
very great.
connecting.
Yeah. Strongly recommend. It's been really, really great to work with Shameless Promotion.
And
So
another
that's
thing I wanted to mention, I know I can't remember the song that you had you went to this range, which is like, oh wow. I kind of had a moment, I was listening, I listened to I love Linda Ronstadt. And I don't know if
yes.
you ever heard her song
Oh yeah, yeah. I
I Knew
grew
You
up listening
When.
to Hard Like a Wheel. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. You ever heard her song I Knew You When? Yeah. So there's a part of that song where it's like whoa, it's like I mean I can't even sing Linda Ronstadt. I can't do it. My voice is too deep. But you know, there's a part of that song where she goes to this range. It's like, whoa. I mean, it's like over and above and beyond. So I thought about that, but yeah.
Yeah, the astrological thing about the octave up that you'd mentioned, the higher octave, that really it's interesting that you mentioned that, because as I've learned how to sing higher and higher, it's allowed me to master the middle of my range, and that's where, like I'm able to
Yeah.
talk now at a range that I never thought I would be able to do, to like talk while singing and really focus on the lyrics that I'm singing rather than
Yeah,
just because
you're
the
reaching the
technique
higher
is
octave.
there.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, when I go up for those high notes and I'm able to sort of like channel my body into that, it really is an
Yep,
intense
exactly.
experience and a new place. And so it's been really great to learn how to do that and not just learn how to do it technically, but to be able to use it musically.
What is your sun sign?
I don't think I
No,
know
when is
how
your
I.
birthday? What's your birthday?
Oh, my birthday is September 6th, so I'm a Virgo.
Oh, you're a Virgo. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're ruled by Mercury.
Yeah.
Mercury is the communication.
Yeah.
Yeah, so oh yeah. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I had someone do my full astrological chart, and it is just like I know some things, but it was just like it was another language, like
yeah. It's
what
definitely a different
hour I
language.
was born, and it was just like this it was this map of time and space that was just really fascinating. I couldn't understand the map, but like I was fascinated to see it happen, and so my friend owes me an explanation for what it means.
Well, you're
But
definitely one of my friends in the 11th house because that's where I have Virgo. So
ah,
I had a feeling you were something like that. I felt I knew. But yeah, thank you, Joe, for coming on the show. And we're looking forward to your next album. And of course I'll put your link to your joegeni.com, right?
yeah, Joegeni.
Yeah, joegeni.com. And then you have your Bandcamp page and other links. I'll be sure to put that on the link in the bottom of the page. But
Thank you. I really
yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah, thank you
Thank you.
very much. Thanks for coming. Say hello to Charlie now.
Absolutely, I will. We're going to be recording some stuff soon, so
Oh, okay.
I'll give him your regards.
Yeah.